My husband took over the restaurant reservation I made for my father's birthday and brought his parents instead. He didn't ask, he didn't discuss it. He sent a text at 4:07 in the afternoon on the day of the dinner. My family doesn't fit the image. My regional director is in town and I need this table to lock in a promotion. Your dad would be more comfortable at some dive bar anyway. I read the message twice. My hands didn't shake, my heart didn't race. There was just a sudden, absolute stillness in my chest, like a heavy steel door slamming shut in an empty warehouse. He wasn't asking for the reservation. He had already called the restaurant and changed the name on the booking. He thought he had won. He thought I would scramble to find a burger joint for my father while he entertained his boss at my expense. I replied with 6 words. My brother owns this place. He left me on red. He didn't believe me. He didn't listen. And that was the last mistake he would ever make as my husband. My father, Raymond Cole, spent 40 years with grease permanently embedded into the lines of his hands. He was an auto mechanic in Dayton, Ohio, the kind of man who could diagnose a failing engine just by the rhythm of its idle. He didn't have a resume. He didn't have a LinkedIn profile. He had a small brick garage that smelled like oil and wintergreen, a bent steel toolbox older than me, and a spine forged from necessity. He raised me alone after my mother left, working double shifts so I could have textbooks, dental work, and a future that didn't involve crawling under cars in February. He never complained. He never asked for recognition. He just showed up and did the work. Then there was my husband, Aaron Whitmore. Aaron didn't fix things, he pitched them. He was a sales director at a software firm, but if you asked him, he was a strategist, a rainmaker, a man destined for bigger rooms. He obsessed over optics. He ironed his jeans. He leased a luxury SUV that cost more per month than my first year of college tuition just so it could sit in the front row of the company garage. He treated life like a performance where the audience was anyone he thought could elevate him. Every conversation was a transaction. Every relationship was leverage. The contrast between the 2 men in my life wasn't just noticeable, it was violent. When my dad came over for dinner, he scrubbed his hands 3 times before touching anything in our spotless, neutral-toned living room. He perched on the edge of the couch, afraid to leave a mark. Aaron watched him with a tight, polite smile that never reached his eyes. The look you give something you're tolerating, not welcoming, like a stray animal someone else dragged inside. Aaron never said it outright in the beginning, but I felt it in the pauses, the sighs, the way his jaw tightened when my father talked about work. He looked down on him, on the grease, the blue-collar cadence, the instinct to fix a dripping sink instead of hiring someone. To Aaron, my father represented everything he was terrified of becoming, invisible. And nothing represented visibility to Aaron more than the Topper Ledger. It sat on the Cincinnati riverfront, all glass, brass, and curated exclusivity. It wasn't just a steakhouse, it was a gate. You couldn't reserve a table online. You had to know someone. There was a 6-month wait list for the public, but the executives, the politicians, the old money donors, they walked right in. Aaron talked about the Copper Ledger the way other men talked about legacy. He checked their social media daily. He networked with assistants just to get close to the host. To him, eating there wasn't about food, it was proof. Proof he had arrived. Proof he wasn't just a salesman from a middle-class zip code pretending to be something sharper, louder, more important. For my father's 65th birthday, I wanted to give him something he would never buy for himself. I wanted him to be treated like someone who mattered. I wanted him to sit by the window, look out at the river, and eat a steak that cost more than an oil change. So I secured a reservation. Aaron didn't know how I did it. He just knew I had it. And from the moment I told him I had a table for 4 at 7 on Saturday night, I saw it in his eyes. Not pride, hunger. He didn't see a birthday dinner for a mechanic. He saw an asset. And like everything else in my life, he decided it was wasted on my family. We lived in the renovated carriage house behind his parents' home. On paper, it looked generous. Aaron told people we were saving for our forever house, that his parents were helping us get ahead. In reality, I wasn't a guest. I was a live-in financial buffer with a debit card. It started small, a grocery run here, a utility bill there. Then came the remodel. 3 months earlier, Aaron came home with a stack of contractor estimates and dropped them on the coffee table like a winning hand. "Mom wants to redo the master bath in the guest house," he said, loosening his tie. "Imported tile, heated floors, rainfall shower, it's going to be incredible." I glanced at the total. $12,000. "That's nice for them," I said, turning back to my laptop. "I hope they enjoy it." Aaron laughed, sharp and humorless. "No, Marissa, we're paying for it. Or rather, you are. My bonus doesn't hit until Q2, and the contractor needs the deposit now." I stopped typing. "Excuse me?" "It's an investment," he said, slipping into the tone he used when explaining something obvious to someone he thought was slow. "We live here rent-free. This raises the property value. It's equity. And after everything my parents have done for you, welcoming you in, overlooking where you came from, it's the least you can do." There it was, the hook. When you grow up with one parent, stretching paychecks, fixing what breaks instead of replacing it, watching other families take vacations you can't afford, you internalize something dangerous. You start believing stability is something you earn, not something you're owed. Aaron and his parents knew this. They sensed that insecurity the way predators sense weakness. They taught me that their approval was a favor, something I had to keep paying for. I wasn't just a wife, I was a charity case they had allowed into their circle. Every bill I paid, every comment I ignored, every check I wrote was proof that I was grateful enough, quiet enough, useful enough to stay. I looked at Aaron. I looked at the estimate. I felt that familiar, invisible chain tighten around my throat. I didn't want to be the ungrateful girl from a broken home. I didn't want to be the burden. I wanted to be worthy. So I wrote the check. $12,000 from my savings. Money I earned managing logistics, streamlining operations, working 50-hour weeks. "Good girl," Aaron said, snatching the check before the ink dried. "Mom's going to love it." He didn't say, "Thank you." He just walked out. The renovations started the next week. His mother, Patricia, came by every day to supervise, criticizing my cleaning while contractors ripped apart a bathroom I had paid for. She spoke to me like I was a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. Even as my money paid for the marble beneath her feet, I realized the chain I thought protected me was suffocating me. I had paid $12,000 for a golden cage, believing it would buy respect, and all it bought was a heated floor I was barely allowed to stand on. The week of my father's 65th birthday, the tension in the house was tangible. Aaron was vibrating with anxiety. His regional director was flying in from Chicago that Saturday, the same night as my dad's dinner. Aaron had been trying for weeks to get into the copper ledger, calling favors, pestering assistants, refreshing the booking system until his thumbs cramped. Nothing worked. On Wednesday night, I came home to find him pacing the living room. He stopped when he saw me, eyes narrowing. "You have a reservation," he said. It wasn't a question. I set my bag down. I saw the confirmation email on the tablet. 7 o'clock, Saturday, window table. He stepped closer, invading my space. "How did you get it? I've been trying for a month." "I have a contact," I said vaguely. "It's for my dad's birthday. I told you that." "Cancel it." The air left the room. "What?" "Cancel the dinner or transfer the reservation to me. I need that table, Marissa. My director expects the best. If I take him somewhere second rate, I look small. If I walk him into the copper ledger on a Saturday night, I look powerful. I get the promotion. We get more money." "No," I said. "It's my dad's birthday. This is important." Aaron scoffed, running a hand through his hair. "Important? Be realistic. Your dad is a mechanic. He drinks beer from cans. He doesn't know the difference between dry-aged steak and something from the grocery store. He'll be uncomfortable. He'll embarrass me just by being there." "He's my father," I said, my voice shaking with a rage I barely recognized. "And he deserves one night where he isn't treated like he's invisible." "He is invisible," Aaron snapped. "That's his place in life. Don't drag me down with him. Give me the reservation code, or don't expect me to cover anything around here next month. You want to play independent? Fine. See how far you get without my family's support." I walked away. I locked the bedroom door. I didn't give him the code. But I underestimated him. I underestimated how low a desperate, status-obsessed man would go. While I was in the shower the next morning, he went through my phone. He found the confirmation. He forwarded it to himself and called the restaurant pretending to be me, changing the name on the reservation. I didn't find out until Saturday afternoon at 4 when that text arrived, the one telling me my dad belonged at a dive bar. He thought he'd outplayed me. He thought he'd taken the crown jewel of the weekend. He didn't realize he hadn't just stolen a table. He'd stepped straight into something that had been waiting for him for years. Saturday night arrived, wrapped in cool Midwest air. I picked up my dad in my own car. He was wearing his one good suit, a charcoal jacket he'd bought for my mother's funeral more than a decade ago. It pulled tight at the shoulders, but his shoes were polished until they caught the streetlights. He looked nervous. He looked proud. He looked like a man trying to fit into a world that never made room for him. "You sure about this, kiddo?" he asked as we pulled up to the valet. "That place looks expensive. Maybe we just grab a burger." "No burgers tonight, Dad," I said, squeezing his hand. "Tonight, you eat like a king." We walked into the Copper Ledger. The lobby gleamed with brass and stone. The air smelled like perfume and seared meat. The host glanced at his screen and frowned. "Reservation for Marissa?" I said. He tapped again. "I see it, ma'am, but it looks like your party has already been seated. Table 6, by the window." I nodded. "Thank you." I guided my father into the dining room. It was full, voices low and polished. And there, in the best corner table overlooking the river, sat Aaron. He was laughing too loudly at something his director said, leaning in with that eager, frantic energy I knew too well. His parents were there too, sipping wine that cost more than my father's weekly pay. They looked comfortable, entitled. Aaron saw us and his smile cracked. He stood and intercepted us before we reached the table, blocking the path. "What are you doing here?" he hissed. "You stole my reservation, Aaron," I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I repurposed it," he snapped, glancing back at his boss. "Look at your father. He doesn't belong here. Take him somewhere he'll be comfortable." My dad shrank slightly, eyes dropping. "No," I said, "we're not leaving." Aaron grabbed my arm. "You're making a scene. Walk out now or you won't have a place to sleep tonight." That was the moment, the breaking point. I pulled my arm free and looked past him toward the kitchen doors. I raised my hand, not waving, signaling. The doors swung open. The room went silent. A man stepped out from the kitchen wearing crisp chef whites, his name stitched over the heart. Daniel Cole didn't rush. He moved with the kind of calm that comes from owning the room without asking permission. The servers froze. The host straightened. He walked past Aaron without a glance and stopped directly in front of my father. "Happy birthday, Dad," Daniel said, wrapping him in a hug without hesitation, without apology, without caring about the grease stains or the worn suit. Then he turned slowly, deliberately. He looked at Aaron. He looked at the regional director. He looked at Patricia and Leonard, frozen mid-sip. "I believe," Daniel said evenly, "that you're sitting at my father's table." For a few seconds, the only sound was cutlery clinking somewhere far away. The director, a man named Thomas Keene, known for turning companies inside out, looked at Daniel, then at Aaron, eyebrows raised. Aaron stood, smoothing his jacket, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Daniel, hey, I didn't know you were working tonight. This is my wife's brother. We go way back. This was actually a surprise." He looked at me, eyes wide, begging me to save him. "Right, Marissa?" Daniel didn't raise his voice. "Cut the nonsense, Aaron." He snapped his fingers. A server appeared and placed a silver tray in front of the director. On it sat a single sheet of thick paper. "What's this?" Aaron asked. "The bill? We haven't ordered." "This isn't for food," Daniel said. "It's an accounting." Thomas picked it up and read. "Imported tile, 4,000. Heated flooring, 3,000. Custom fixtures, 2,500. Monthly gratitude payments disguised as utilities, 2,500. Daniel leaned forward, palms on the table. "Total taken from my sister to renovate a house she doesn't own, 12,000. Fill in, balance in Aaron's account, 0. Patricia gasped. Leonard stared into his glass. Aaron's face darkened, then flushed. This was a narcissistic injury, not embarrassment, erasure.
"You set me up," Aaron shouted, slamming the table. "You planned this. You let me bring my boss just to humiliate me?" He spun toward me, finger shaking. "You lied. You hid your brother was just a cook. You hid this. You hid the money." "I didn't hide anything," I said calmly. "You never asked. You were too busy mocking my father to notice his son built an empire." "She's manipulating you," Aaron snapped at Thomas. "She tricked me. She let me pay for things. She let you believe you were a provider," Daniel finished. Thomas set the paper down and looked at Aaron with pure disgust. "Sit down, Aaron. You're embarrassing yourself." Aaron collapsed into his chair. The illusion was gone. Thomas stood. "Don't come in Monday. You're suspended pending a full audit. If you treat your family like this, I can only imagine how you treat company funds." "But the promotion," Aaron whispered. "Promotions go to leaders," Thomas said, walking away, "not parasites." Patricia and Leonard looked at me, waiting for me to fix it. The bank of Marissa was closed. I removed my wedding ring and placed it on the tray. "We can fix this," Aaron frugged. "You weren't under pressure," I said. "You were under the delusion that I existed to fund your image." I felt nothing, only clarity. "The renovations are your severance. I'm taking the only asset that matters." I turned to my father. "Ready to eat?" "Starving," he said, standing taller than I'd ever seen him. We didn't eat in the dining room. Daniel led us to the chef's table in the back. It was loud and warm and real. We ate until we laughed. My father told stories and no one rolled their eyes. And I realized I had been building my own table all along. If this story stayed with you longer than the video itself, don't walk away. Subscribe. This channel is for people who actually feel what they hear. Share this with someone who needs it.